G'day everyone and welcome back to Home Drive-In and welcome back to another episode of Take 10. It was a dark and stormy night. Except in these cases. Be that it just happens to be summer here in Melbourne. Apparently. I thought we'd celebrate those movies that eschewed the classic moonlit environment by staging their more horrific moments in the big bold light of day. Throughout history, horror films traditionally set their more harrowing scenes against a backdrop of dark. Be that a haunted castle, eerie graveyard, or moonlit forest, the genre's more harrowing scenes often taking place under the curtain of night. Yet horror films have evolved over the years to move away from this tradition, illuminating some of their more heinous moments by setting them in broad daylight. Okay, this is by no means a new phenomenon, but when the rule of less is more is broken, we're often fronted with a truly unique horror experience that takes us by surprise. This list compiles a selection of horror films that feature one of their more nightmarish set pieces during the day, a time one would otherwise expect to offer a degree of safety. So with that, I give you 10 horror movie deaths that happen in broad daylight. Now, due to the number of options available, the scene in question must involve the death of a character or characters while taking place at least partially in a brightly lit outdoor setting. I know, again with my stipulations, but there's always fine print, people. Special considerations have been given to scenes that contain multiple deaths or antagonists, which means that there will be plenty of spoilers from films old and new. So please proceed with caution. Let's begin.
You think I'm sick? No. Thank you.
Number 10. Mitzy Pearl. A gifted storyteller can demand that you sympathise with its villain, as this Thai West prequel to his equally excellent gore fest X explores the early life of this franchise's main antagonist. Mia Goth once again plays the titular anti-hero. Set in 1918, Pearl is stuck in her isolated farmhouse while her husband is off at war. She is forced to care for her invalid father under the strict rule of her overbearing mother. Pearl spends her limited free time yearning for an unattainable life of freedom and fame. As her mental state grows more volatile, she has an affair with a local projectionist before ultimately killing him and mortally wounding her parents. Her wealthy sister-in-law Mitzy consoles Pearl after a failed stage audition, who confesses her infidelity, bitterness and murder of her lover and parents. Clearly disturbed by Pearl's admission, Mitzy attempts to leave, where she is slowly but decisively pursued by her axe-wielding sister-in-law, with the daylight setting offering no respite amid the isolated farmhouse. Pearl ultimately catches up with Mitzy and does away with her, yet perhaps more frighteningly, still manages to earn a degree of sympathy as the tragedy of her life culminates in this memorable and bloody moment.
I'll do anything you want!
It's not about what I want anymore, Mitzy. It's about making the best of what I have.
Are you famous?
I'm from St. Louis. Photographers don't get famous in St. Louis.
Number 9. Freddy, Dead and Buried. Okay fellas, if you take anything away from this scene, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is, as amateur photographer Freddy learns in this underrated horror film scripted by Alien writer Dan O'Bannon. Dead and Buried's opening scene sees a young man arriving at the quiet seaside town of Potter's Bluff to snap some beachfront photos, when a coy and attractive young lady arrives to innocently photobomb his shots. After some flirting, her attentions seemingly come to the foreshore, where she asks if she can model for him. Or rather, we assume this is her goal, as Freddy starts snapping away at his newfound subject. However, we quickly learn her objective is far more sinister, acting as a decoy so Freddy can be ambushed by no less than a dozen locals who proceed to tie him to a post and set him alight. Okay, I might be slightly cheating my guidelines here, as the poor photographer actually survives the lynching, until the young lady ultimately finishes him off in a hospital posing as a nurse. And even then I might be cheating. If you've seen this film, you know what I mean. While not revealing the actual motive behind the attack, this scene occurring in broad daylight and within the first 10 minutes is as horrific as it is unexpected, and establishes Dead and Buried as a film full of surprises.
There's someone behind you.
Smile, Freddy.
Would you like us to walk you home?
No, thank you.
Why not?
Keep away. I warn you.
Number 8. Death by Tree, The Guardian. Here's an obscure little film you may not remember from Exorcist director William Friedkin that didn't do too much to impress critics or audiences, yet volunteered one memorable scene of daytime mayhem. Hoping to maintain their respective careers, parents Phil and Kate hire seemingly friendly English nanny Camilla to help care for their infant son Jake. We soon question Camilla's suitability as a nanny, since we later discover she is in fact a wood nymph, a mythological creature that sacrifices infants to a seemingly sentient tree. Hey, it happens all the time, you've seen the news. The Guardian's standout moment occurs when Camilla is taking a walk with Jake in the woods, when she is approached by a trio of thugs who quickly make their predatory intentions clear. When Camilla attempts to escape, the thugs find the tables turned when they're impaled, crushed and eviscerated by an entanglement of animated tree branches, with the daylight setting showing the brutality in gory detail. The premise is ludicrous and the film itself is admittedly pretty bad, and while the three thugs are certainly deserving of their fate, it doesn't make this daylight moment any more forgettable.
Gail's not here.
I'm not interrupting anything, am I? You three look deep in thought.
Number 7. Randy, Scream 2. While later films in the Scream franchise have taken chances, divided viewers and defied expectations, the first sequel in this beloved series set a pretty high bar with one of its few daytime killings. 2 years after her trauma at Woodsboro, Sydney Prescott now resides at Windsor College when a new mystery killer emerges, sporting the infamous ghost face mask and MO of phoning their victims before striking. In one of the franchise's most polarising scenes, co-survivor and fan favourite Randy Meeks meets his premature demise during the broad daylight hours on their college campus. When Randy finds himself in an unexpected phone conversation with the mystery antagonist, they exchange a few insults before Randy is dragged into a nearby van where he becomes Ghostface's latest pincushion. While the takedown happening mere feet away from a group of oblivious boomboxing students requires some suspension of disbelief, the scene is credible enough to remind us that in this franchise, not even the light of day will keep you safe. While the daylight ambush is shocking enough, the scene hits hard considering Randy's established fan base, and it was sad to see such a lovable character meet such an untimely end. Number 6. Bo, A Quiet Place. Nothing hits harder than the death of a child, and this 2018 horror flick by director and star John Krasinski pulls no punches in its opening daytime pre-credit sequence. We're introduced to a post-apocalyptic future where blind, hostile creatures with a high sensitivity to sound have all but destroyed humanity, leaving the few people remaining to forge an existence in perpetual silence. While searching for food, the Abbott family comes across a store where 4-year-old Bo finds a toy ship that his father immediately confiscates, removing the batteries, fearing the toy could make a potentially life-threatening noise. Feeling somewhat sympathetic, his hearing-impaired older sister Reagan secretly hands the toy back to Bo, who innocently collects the batteries on their way outside. At no surprise to the audience, but to the family's absolute horror, they are startled when Bo activates the noisy ship, alerting one of the deadly creatures to their presence. Bo's father runs full pelt as he attempts to save his son from the incoming creature that swiftly snatches the doomed lad away mere seconds from being rescued. Any writer will tell you that your opening scene needs to set the bar high, and co-writer-director John Krasinski pulls an absolute gut punch with this opening scene, setting the trend for more horrors to come. Number 5. The Spring Breakers, Piranha 3D. While my gut always tells me to honour the original over a remake, I just can't look past the display of sheer pandemonium that makes up the closing 45-minute fish frenzy in this gory bloodfest. While Joe Dante's original Piranha is a delicious B-movie classic, this 2010 remake amps the gore and sleaze up to 11 when a massive crowd of spring breakers gathers at a lakeside town for some serious partying. Town Sheriff Julie Forrester teams up with a group of seismologists and discovers a massive school of voracious mutated piranha that threatens to turn this spring break into an all-you-can-eat buffet. As attempts to coax the massive crowd out of the water go unheeded, the carnivorous sea life swarms the unfortunate partygoers. As an underwater massacre ensues, panic erupts, bodies are ripped apart, and the lake turns a deep shade of crimson. While the goofy CGI effects dilute some of the tension, the very real prosthetic work by makeup magician Greg Nicotero is as gut-churning as it is abundant, as severed limbs, gaping wounds, and even a scalping via speedboat propeller drench the screen. Piranha 3D tries nothing more than to be a raunchy, bloody display of carnage candy that uses its daytime setting to showcase its scenes of flesh and blood to majestically gruesome effect.
Get to the shore! Get to the shore!
Hey, you guys, look over there! What? It's one of our canoes! It is, it's ours!
No, it isn't.
It is, it's gotta be!
Yeah, who else?
Number 4. The Rafters, The Burning. It's 1981, and we have a seemingly endless number of slashers hitting the screen, including this shameless Friday the 13th clone that offers up all the gore and nudity one can expect for an exploitation film of this kind. However, The Burning outshines some of its imitators with some likeable, albeit one-dimensional characters that you can almost care about, featuring the early talents of Fisher Stevens, Holly Hunter, and Jason Alexander. When a camp caretaker is hideously burned in a prank gone wrong, he returns to the scene of the crime 5 years later to carry out an avenging murder spree. When the campers embark on a trip upriver, they soon discover all of their canoes have vanished, where 5 of our doomed characters are forced to set out on a makeshift raft to find them. Stumbling across a drifting canoe, the team eagerly paddles towards it. With the music and tension building, we wonder exactly what they're going to find. A dead body? 2 dead bodies? A canoe filled with severed heads? Nope, but they do find the vengeful Cropsy, who rises up armed with garden shears to chop, impale, and slice through the helpless teen, with Fisher Stevens suffering the most cringeworthy death that does give new definition to the term fish fingers. An hour into this underrated slasher with barely a death on screen, this infamous moment appears out of nowhere, with the daylight setting encapsulating the element of surprise. The scene is infamous enough to compete with the best that Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, or Freddy Krueger had to offer. I wonder what they would have said if they'd seen this.
That still only counts as one!
Number 3. The Highway Scene, Final Destination 2. Every time I see a logging truck. Every time. Another horror film that knew how to make an entrance, this 2003 sequel to Final Destination one-ups the impact of its predecessor's opener with a truly shocking and meticulously staged multi-car pile-up. Kind of a cheat considering this moment is technically a premonition from leading lady Kimberly, who predicts the horrific disaster after setting out on a spring break road trip with her college friends. In true Final Destination fashion, the mayhem is preceded by a suspenseful build-up that introduces a set of red herrings before the inciting incident finally occurs, with a tree log breaking loose from the back of a truck. The decimation that follows is truly something to behold, with several motorists crushed, maimed, exploded, or incinerated before Kimberly finally comes to, giving her and her friends a chance to escape death's wrath. While Kimberly's foreshadowing saves her and other people from the ensuing destruction, her friends, unfortunately, aren't so lucky. While CGI was used for more of the complex shots, which for the most part were relatively seamless, the majority of this scene was shot for real, with the light of day allowing us to witness the havoc in gruesome detail. The resulting carnage is mesmerising to watch, coupled with at least some degree of plausibility, cementing this moment as the Final Destination franchise's finest set piece.
Now sit back, stay in your seats, and enjoy the Star Lasso experience.
Number 2. Jupiter's Claim. Nope. Director Jordan Peele knows how to build suspense to near breaking point, as seen in his previous films, Get Out and Us, with his third feature exploring the strange occurrences surrounding the presence of an unidentified flying object. The film juxtaposes the lives of horse wrangler siblings OJ and Emerald with a former child star, Jupe, who, while all dealing with their respective past traumas, attempt to profit from the arrival of the mysterious UFO. The scene in question involves Jupe, the founder of a neighbouring Western theme park who has been in somewhat of a union with the strange object, hoping to display it to a live audience. It's here we make the alarming discovery that the elusive entity is not a ship as one may expect, but a voracious saucer-shaped creature that proceeds to ingest everyone in attendance. This was not in the brochure. What follows is indeed a spectacle, where we bear witness to dozens of people vacuumed up by the immense beast, where they are left to scream and writhe while seemingly being digested. While not even the film's most traumatizing set piece, we'll award that to another gruesome moment involving a chimp. This scene is horrific as the unfortunate victims transition from what should be the safest of places, an outdoor carnival, into a frightening claustrophobic nightmare. And since there were so many films to choose from, here are a few honourable mentions.
Look at me, Damien. It's all for you.
Oh God! Oh Jesus Christ!
Number 1. Sergeant Howie, The Wicker Man. This 1973 folk horror classic has earned its place in film history with its unusual settings, superb cinematography, excellent performances, and one of cinema's more shocking rug pulls. Sergeant Howie is a deeply conservative Christian detective who, upon receiving an anonymous letter, arrives at a remote Scottish island to investigate the disappearance of a missing girl, Rowan. Upon settling in, he finds that the locals not only deny Rowan's existence, but also engage in pagan rituals, with some unorthodox activities, including some rather liberal sexual practices that conflict with his more traditional beliefs. Sergeant Howie concludes that Rowan is intended to be sacrificed, and infiltrates the town's May Day celebrations, ultimately finding her and quickly learning the truth of his situation. He discovers that his summoning to the island was merely a ruse to sacrifice him by burning him alive inside a giant wicker statue, with the islanders believing his immolation will revive their failing crops. Like so many other films of the 1970s, The Wicker Man certainly elevated the horror genre, with actors Edward Woodward and Christopher Lee even citing it as one of their best films, from its humble beginning to its shocking climax. Howie's final moments never fail to make an impact, desperately turning to his faith before seemingly resigning to his fate, as his cries and screams of several sacrificial animals are eclipsed by the sounds of flames and celebration. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. There are countless daytime horror movie deaths to choose from. These were just my picks, so feel free to comment and let me know what your favourites are. And while you're at it, if you want to give this video a like, share, or even consider subscribing, that would certainly help shed a little more daylight on my channel. Thanks so much for your patience during my break over January, and rest assured I have prepared some new material for 2024, so I'll hope you'll stay tuned for those. I will be back soon with a new retrospective, yet until then, be good to yourselves and each other. I'll see you next time.